a slow drain, a running toilet, a faucet that won't stop dripping, and the first thought is the same: time to call someone and time to pay. But here's what the old farm families knew, and what an honest plumber will tell you after the second beer. Most of what you pay for is small neglect, not real damage. The same call a plumber bills $200, $300, $400 for can often be erased, or prevented entirely, for under $15 and 20 minutes. But three of the miracle fixes your feed keeps pushing: the dollar liquid that melts any clog, the magic powder, quietly damage your pipes, and will sort the real from the myth. Ranked the honest way, by how many dollars each one actually keeps in your pocket. Stay with it. The cheapest fix saves the most. Think of this as a page from an old household almanac, the kind kept near the fuse box, where a home was something you maintained, not something you called about. Let's be honest from the start, because every video like this gets it wrong. Not every plumbing problem is a cheap fix. A burst pipe, a gas water heater, a sewer line backing up. Those are pro jobs, and trying to save $15 there can cost you a flooded floor or worse. So this isn't never call a plumber. It's stop paying a plumber for the things you can fix in the time it takes coffee to brew. Here's the whole idea in one breath. Water is always looking for the cheapest way out, through the worn washer, the loose seal, the tired hose. Close those little doors and the bills close with them. And this works whether you own or rent. Most of it needs no tools you don't already have, and nothing a landlord has to bless. Here's the one idea that ties it all together. Plumbing drains your wallet 4 ways. Water you pay for but never use. Energy spent heating water that just sits and waits. Repairs a 50-cent part would have fixed. And the rare, sudden flood a $10 hose would have prevented. So the fixes are ranked by how much each keeps in your pocket. The steady savings first, then the disaster you prevent, then the drains where the myths live. Silent leaks, the water heater, the hoses that flood houses, your water pressure, and finally the drains, with the honest line you never cross alone at the end. Most channels sell you the dramatic one, the drain miracle. We'll get there, and we'll be honest about it. Start where the most money escapes and nobody looks. The silent leaks. The Environmental Protection Agency's WaterSense program puts it bluntly. The average American home loses nearly 10,000 gallons of water a year to leaks, and 10% of homes leak 90 gallons a day or more. Fixing the easy ones, they say, trims about 10% off a water bill, for the price of a washer. Number 1. The running toilet, the loudest money waster in the house, often silent. That same EPA program says a single running toilet can waste up to 200 gallons a day, a small swimming pool every couple of weeks, quietly billed to you. Here's the how. Drop a little food coloring in the tank, wait 10 minutes, and if color creeps into the bowl, the flapper is leaking. A new flapper is a few dollars and snaps on by hand in 5 minutes. No tools, no shut-off drama. If the tank keeps refilling on its own and the flapper's fine, the other suspect is the fill valve, a $10 part that drops in just as easily. Number 2, the dripping faucet. Almost always a worn rubber washer or cartridge, not a broken faucet. Shut the valve under the sink, unscrew the handle, swap the washer from a 50-cent assortment, and the drip that wastes gallons a day is gone. Number 3, the faucet aerator, that little screen on the tip. A clogged one makes you think the pressure's failing and call someone. Unscrew it, soak it in vinegar overnight, rinse, and the pressure problem fixes itself for nothing. The very same vinegar soak revives a weak shower head. Unscrew it, drop it in warm vinegar for an hour, and the spray you thought you'd lost comes back. And here's a free way to catch any hidden leak at once. Write down the water meter reading at night, use no water, and check it in the morning. If the number moved, water is escaping somewhere. Cost for all 3 fixes, under $10. Honest limit. If the leak is inside the wall or under the slab, not at a fixture, stop. That's a pro job. Layer 2 is the quiet one on your power bill. The water heater. The U.S. Department of Energy says water heating is about 18% of a typical home's energy use, the second biggest slice after heating and cooling. 2 free-to-cheap moves cut that, and neither needs a plumber. First, turn the thermostat on the tank down to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The Department of Energy notes many tanks ship set to 140, which wastes standby energy and scalds. 120 is plenty for a home, and the dial is right on the unit. Second, flush the sediment once a year. Minerals settle to the bottom of the tank and force it to work harder. Hook a garden hose to the drain valve, run a few gallons into a bucket until it runs clear, and you've added years to its life. One more, almost free. If the tank feels warm to the touch, wrap it in an insulating blanket. The Department of Energy says that alone can cut standby heat loss by up to a quarter. And if you're handy with a socket wrench, there's the part the trade rarely mentions: the sacrificial anode rod. A roughly $20 metal rod inside the tank, built to rust away so the steel tank itself doesn't. Swapped before it's eaten away, that one rod can add years to the tank, which is exactly why the water heater you replace on schedule could often have lasted far longer. Honest limit, and it matters. If your heater runs on gas, do not touch the gas line or the burner. And if the old anode rod is seized or the tank already weeps rust, that's the tank near its end. A pro call, not a patch. Layer 3 isn't about a daily drip. It's about the one failure that floods a whole floor while you're at work. Behind your washing machine are 2 rubber hoses, held under full water pressure every second, even when the machine is off. The Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety studied hundreds of washing machine claims, and more than half of the water damage came from a supply hose that simply burst. The same study found failures climb sharply once a hose passes 5 years old. The average burst hose was nearly 9. And a burst supply line doesn't politely drip. It sprays clean water at full pressure for as long as you're gone, which is how one $5 hose becomes a water damage claim in the thousands. Here's the fix, and it's the cheapest insurance in the house. Swap those tired rubber hoses for braided steel ones, about $10 to $15 for the pair, 20 minutes with a pair of pliers. Write the date on the new hose with a marker, and plan to change them again in about 5 years. And the free habit that matters more than the hose: if you're leaving for more than a day, turn off the 2 valves behind the machine. A hose can't flood a house with the water shut. The same goes for the little supply lines under the sink, behind the toilet, and to the ice maker. All cheap to replace, and cheaper still to shut off. Honest limit: braided steel is stronger, not eternal. It can still oxidize and fray, so the date on the hose and the shutoff valve matter more than the brand. Layer 4 is the one almost nobody checks, and it quietly shortens the life of everything else: your water pressure. Most homes are built to run between 40 and 60 pounds per square inch. Plumbing codes draw a hard line at 80. Above that, the pressure hammers every washer, valve, and joint in the house, day and night. High pressure is why a faucet you just fixed starts dripping again, why a water heater wears out early, why a hose lets go. You can often hear it, that bang in the walls when a tap shuts off. The trade calls it water hammer. Is pressure with nowhere to go, pounding the joints. And no one set that pressure for you. It's whatever the city sends, and in plenty of neighborhoods, that's well over 80. Here's the how, and it costs about $10. Buy a screw-on water pressure gauge, thread it onto an outdoor spigot or the laundry faucet, and open the tap. If the needle sits under 60, you're fine. If it's pushing 80 or past it, that's your culprit. The cure for high pressure is a pressure-reducing valve where the water enters the house, and many homes already have one, quietly failing after 10 or 15 years. Testing the pressure for $10 tells you whether that valve is doing its job, before the high pressure quietly costs you a heater or a flood. Honest limit: the $10 gauge is yours to use. Replacing the pressure-reducing valve on the main line is a job for a pro and worth every dollar. Layer 5 is the famous one, the drain, where every $1 miracle lives. So let's sort the real from the myth plainly. Myth 1. The dollar bottle of liquid that melts any clog forever. Most of those are the same harsh chemical drain cleaners plumbers warn about. They can eat older pipes and the seals at the joints, and when they don't clear the clog, the next person reaching in meets a pipe full of acid. Myth 2. Baking soda and vinegar will clear anything. The truth, it fizzes, and that foam freshens a smell and nudges a very early, greasy slowdown. It will not move a real hair and grease clog, no matter how many videos say so. Myth 3. The one your feed is pushing hardest right now. The dollar brown bottle, hydrogen peroxide. The drain trick plumbers don't want you to know. Here's the honest version. Plain 3% hydrogen peroxide really does freshen a drain and break down the light organic film that makes it smell. And unlike the harsh chemicals, it won't eat your pipes. But it is not a clog dissolver. It won't move a solid hair and grease blockage, and no plumber is hiding it from you. It's $2 at any pharmacy. Use it the honest way. Once a week, pour a cup down a smelly drain, let it sit, then flush with hot water. Maintenance, not rescue. So here's what actually works on a clog you already have, and it's cheaper than any bottle. 1. A flat metal drain zip tool, about $2, slid into the drain pulls out the hair clog that causes most slow bathroom sinks and tubs. 2. A $5 cup plunger for the sink, or a flanged one for the toilet. Used right, with enough water to seal, it clears more clogs than any liquid. And for the clog the zip tool can't reach, a hand-crank drain snake, about $15, feeds deeper into the pipe than any chemical ever will, and pulls the blockage out instead of pushing it down. 3. The real maintenance. Once a week, pour a kettle of just boiled water down the kitchen drain to keep grease moving. Hot water, not chemicals. And the oldest rule the farm kitchens kept: grease never goes down the drain. It goes in a can, cooled, and in the trash. One more honest myth to retire. That drain in the guest bath that smells like sewer isn't broken. Its trap just dried out. Every drain has a U-shaped bend that holds a little water to block sewer gas. In a sink you rarely use, that water evaporates. Pour a cup down once a month and the smell is gone for free. And if you want real maintenance between cleanings, skip the caustic chemicals and use an enzyme drain treatment, the kind with bacteria that quietly digest grease and hair over time. It won't clear a clog you already have, but used monthly, it keeps one from forming, and it never eats your pipes. And if your home runs on a septic system, this matters even more. Those harsh chemical cleaners kill the very bacteria your tank depends on to work, so the enzyme treatment isn't just gentler on pipes, it's the only kind that's safe for the tank. Honest limit. If every drain in the house is slow at once, or it gurgles and backs up, stop plunging. That's the main line, and that's a pro with a real auger. One more from the older pages. And it isn't a fix, it's a 5-minute habit that prevents the expensive call entirely. Once a month, walk the house and listen. A toilet that hisses, a meter that ticks with every tap off, a damp spot under a sink. And know where your main shutoff valve is, and that it still turns before the night you need it. A $2 habit catches the $10 fix before it becomes the $400 emergency. So here's everything in one breath. A lower water and power bill, and a house that never floods. Isn't bought from a plumber. It's kept by closing the small leaks. The flapper, the washer, the aerator. The water heater dialed to 120 and flushed. The tired washing machine hoses swapped for braided steel, and the valves shut when you travel. The pressure checked with a $10 gauge, and the drain cleared with a $2 tool and a kettle, not a miracle bottle. And the honest line you don't cross alone. Gas, the main line, the pressure valve, anything inside a wall. Now it's your turn. Tell us in the comments the one plumbing bill you're finally going to skip this month, and how old your house is, because old pipes and hard water change the whole playbook. We read every single one. Get the free Field Edition, a one-page checklist of the under $15 fixes and the Call a Pro red flags, link below. Next time in the Almanac, we head out to the yard, the weeds, and what actually kills them without poisoning the soil you grow in. Until then, spend less, live more. The Thrifty Almanac.